Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Jack and Joe Show on audio in your ears and hopefully equally on your screen. We're back and we actually have some Fulham news, stories, whatever to talk about. It's been an international break, which a couple of weeks ago I was saying I was actually quite enjoying, and then I got ridiculously bored. And I also got ridiculously frustrated with being off the back of two Fulham defeats. And what better to look forward to than a visit of the league leaders? But Jack, we did lose 1-0. I would say it's fair to say it was a game that we were all dreading. So how are you, and what did you make of it?
Yeah, it was a game that came at a bad time with Arsenal on very, very good form. Still only one defeat in the league this season, or in all comps, and that was to Szoboszlai from 35 yards. So very, very small and fine margins, as Scott Parker would say. And I thought, actually, once hearing news that Rao was starting, which I started, did I remember texted you? I think I texted you Saturday morning or Friday night, and I was like, you know what? I think Rao's going to be involved here.
Yeah.
Just the way Marco sort of didn't want to give anything away. And I felt 10 times more confident with just a focal point. And I think Fulham actually played very, very well for large parts of the game. The whole stat about 0 shots on target, well, Josh King's sort of cross shot was close. TC had a volley towards goal, which was blocked. We created chances, and we really did put them to the sword. And I think one moment where Gabriel gets the run on our defence and flicks on for Trossard was our downfall. My concern was, the lack of creativity in the final third in the second half. Once we were 1-0 down, that was a real concern. Then again, we're playing the best defensive side in the league at this moment in time, I believe. So encouraging, still a bit disastrous with injuries. Okay, it wasn't as bad as we thought because obviously Tete's back. But we were missing 4 key players. Add Anderson onto that now. He's probably going to be out for the weekend, and TC will be a doubt, but probably will be okay. It's a very interesting one. It's been a really strange weekend to be a Fulham fan with Marco Silva stuff, which we'll get onto as well. That's all sort of now ironed itself out, which is good news. But Joe, from your perspective in the Hammersmith end, a 1-0 defeat, how was the feeling amongst the fans in H7, 8?
Yeah, it wasn't too disheartened, compared to other defeats that we'd had, albeit they've been away from home. We've been quite good at the Cottage so far this season. I do feel like that continued performance-wise in the first half in particular. I thought that we started really well. Yes, no shots on target in the first half, but went very close. Harry Wilson, some very good chances. The TC one was going on target until it was blocked. Josh King, did nearly catch Raya out, which is something that we do have previous with. So that would have been very fun.
That would be jokes.
But, when we were going into the game, with the injury news we had, I wouldn't have been confident against anyone in the league, let alone the league leaders. So when the team news dropped, like you, first instinct was fantastic news that Rao's back, because we need that focal point up top. But the thing that really struck me was the formation and how we were all very much expecting to stick with the 5 at the back. I was a little bit nervous with the fact that we were going at 4 at the back in terms of could we match up to Arsenal from more a defensive standpoint than anything. I wasn't too confident about Sessegnon against Saka. I wasn't too confident about Castagne versus whoever was on their left-hand side, whether that be Martinelli or, as it went, Trossard. We know that Eze also likes to drop over to that side as well. So I was actually very happy with the first half. I thought that we defended really well, reduced them to really any clear-cut chances, maybe aside from that one where Gyökeres went through slightly wide and Leno saved it. But I was really happy with the performance, and also liked that we did cause them some problems. After half-time, I think they just started to pick up a bit of steam ahead of the goal. We did have one really good chance for Wilson at the other end where he volleyed over. But to be honest, that was basically the end of our chances for the game, let alone before they scored. It was really disappointing to let in that goal from a set piece. We know how good they are. That doesn't mean it's easy to stop. Gabriel, probably the one person you don't want to be on the end of that first contact from any delivery for Arsenal, and he did get the run on us. It was really disappointing, but there's a reason that it's hard to stop, is he's probably the best in the league at doing it. And Saka's deliveries, as he admitted post-match, had actually been they left a lot to be desired before that, but he got one right, and we paid the price for not being really attentive to the second ball for Trossard. A few people ball watching, TC, Jimenez. Don't want to be too critical because they're the best in the league at it, but it is disappointing when you reduce them to nothing in open play to lose the game by that. After we let in the goal is what disappointed me. Obviously, we had the penalty sort of incident, which was a bit of a lifeline. Looking at the replay, there's been a bit of discourse online, but ultimately he gets the ball.
Yeah.
I know that people are saying that his knee caught Saka. You could also say that Saka's knee caught Kevin. Ultimately it's a contact sport, and he got the ball, and I think it would have been harsh.
And you're slowing things down as well, and you're saying
he's slowing them down.
It's ridiculous. Yeah.
And also, I think we were owed one anyway, even if it is a bit soft.
I think we're owed about 10, mate.
I think we're owed a lot. But I don't think that was a penalty. And I'm biased, but I don't think it was at all. And I think that the discourse, if that had been given against Arsenal versus not given, would have been very different. We know they like to have a moan, don't we all? But I think they've got previous for it. But Jack, I was disappointed by, we got ourselves into some good positions. The one that really stuck out to me was an injury time where Raul did very well to get the ball to the byline and cross it in. And I know he's our striker and maybe he should be the one in the box, but why is no one busting a gut to get in there?
That's a Smith Rowe sort of run you'd make when he scored against United.
Van der Berger, make a run from deep. Iwobi should be there. Adama should be there. So many should be there, and none of them were. We only needed one. But we didn't cause them the problems in the box that we should have done. I thought we played through the lines very well on the night. I thought Iwobi had a great game. I thought the Cuenca was fantastic in our build-up. And I loved his performance. I think he should keep his place for the Newcastle game. I thought he didn't put a foot wrong, and I wouldn't have wasted a sub taking him off. I think that was the chance. Again, we know Silva's thoughts on Kusi Asari. I think you more than anyone know his thoughts on Kusi Asari on some one-on-one time. If we speak, we are in gargantuan trouble. But I think that, there is a chance to go two up top there and just give them something to think about. We have absolutely nothing to lose. What's a 1-0 defeat versus a 2-0 defeat if we're caught on the break? Have a go, cause them some problems, because I thought that Gabriel and Saliba had a very, very easy evening after that first half an hour was done.
The midfield too of TC and Berger, on paper you're going, oh no, against Arsenal. But actually, were we overran at times? Perhaps, but it wasn't absolutely disastrous. They weren't cutting through us like knife through butter. And I thought we defended, especially our fullbacks as well. Actually, in fact, all four of them at the back before Anderson came off as well, who Diop replaced him. So all five of them in total. In fact, all six, I suppose Bassi came on as well. They all did outstandingly well. I thought I was really impressed with Castagna, actually.
But I bash Castagna all the time. And I was saying to you all week, Jack, if Tete's not there, I'm so nervous. I was like, I need that Tete news. The team news comes out, I see Tete's on the bench, my head's gone. I'm thinking, why is he not there? Every time that Tete plays against Arsenal, he normally locks down that left-hand side. And it's even worse at the moment because they've got Calafiori, who's, let's face it, one of the most attacking left-backs in the league right now. I've got to say, Castagna, you were very, very good. He won't watch this. He won't care.
He won't watch it.
I just want to say that everyone that says that I bash him, I do. I thought that he was great. And he was not one of the concerns at the weekend at all. Would I prefer to see Tete line up on Saturday? Yes. Yeah. I think Tete's the better defender. I think he's the better player.
Especially what happened last year at St James's Park.
Again, if I speak, I'm in huge trouble. But I thought Castagna was great. And I just want to put that out, especially because he lost Anderson halfway through. Yeah. And, Diop came in and did well. But, you lose the centre-back that's to your left or to your right, but whoever, but it's centre-back to his left. That's tough. That's really tricky. So well done to Castagna.
The funny thing is, when Anderson goes off, you could understand maybe some moans and groans, or Diop's coming on, oh no, we're going to be... Last time Diop and Cuenca played together in a Premier League game was at Anfield last season, and they were outstanding. And Sammy made the great point at half-time saying that, our back four now is our second choice back four.
Yeah.
And the back line did very, very well, apart from that one moment with Gabriel, and that was a collective because everyone's in the box.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought, and Leno making a couple of really big saves as well, especially at the end to deny them a second goal. It's so frustrating because I want to come out and say I'm really pleased with the performance, and I felt so low after the game for some reason because obviously we've lost a game. You know, you're never going to feel happy when you lose a game, but I felt low because the stats didn't back up how well we played. Obviously, you see 0 shots on target, and you think that's been a pathetic performance. I don't think it was anything like a pathetic performance from Fulham. That pass from Iwobi to Harry Wilson in the first half, I was getting flashbacks to Brentford at home. It was absolutely beautiful. Josh King's footwork and skill and nous to get away from top centre backs, outstanding. Raul Jimenez running his absolute socks off. And, we get a lot of comments on Jack and Joe, especially in the last few weeks, saying we've got rose-tinted glasses on. And we'll probably get the same again this week. I don't care. When the team plays badly, we will say the team played badly. And we have played badly. Bournemouth and Aston Villa, the way we've given away those leads were, borderline shocking. This was just much, much better. And if we can build on that performance, everyone's saying, oh, we're going to lose at Newcastle. Well, who knows? We won their
I would honestly say if we played like we did on Saturday at Newcastle, I don't think we lose the game.
I agree. And Newcastle coming off a defeat, they're not in good form. They've got a Champions League game in the week.
100%. And this is the thing. Do I think the performance was good enough to win the game? No. But I would also say that if I asked every single Fulham fan heading into that stadium on Saturday or watching at home or just following it somewhere else, would you take a point? I don't think that any would say no. Exactly. And that was based on more the injury crisis rather than playing against Arsenal. But when you factor in both together, it's not ideal. Then add in our form. Then add in the fact that we're not creating much and we're leaking goals. The problem is still the creative part. I wasn't happy with our attacking in the second half. So, like I say, if any comments do want to point out that we're being too positive, I'm still feeling negative about that second half attacking performance. But we must caveat that with versus who we are playing against. And they don't let in many chances at all. Would I have liked to see a bit more risk-taking from both the bench and the players on the pitch? Yes, I would, especially when it got to that last 15 minutes. But going into that game, I had zero expectations, and there were many things that made me happy and also proud of the team that was out there on the pitch. Because when that lineup came out, Jack, and you're seeing, Cuenca's making his first start in a while. Very good player, but hasn't really been tested in the Premier League, especially at centre half rather than left back this season. You're thinking, okay, what's going to happen here? I know that he was there against Brighton. There's been a few times when he's come on in a back five and he's sort of been the left centre back against Brentford when he was fantastic, for example. There's just a few things that were just going against us, and I wasn't feeling good about it. And I feel a lot better about the team now. On another day, I think we take one of those early chances. In that first 5 minutes or 10 minutes maybe, we'd had more shots against Arsenal than we did in the game last season in the 1-1 draw. And don't get me wrong, one of those chances went in. But if you look at how you view the performance, I thought we conceded less chances versus Arsenal this time. And Arsenal that I think are better than last season. And we created more versus a better defence. Am I still happy with the attacking performance in the second half? No. In the final half an hour. But I do want to say that for 60 minutes, I was very happy.
Let's just imagine if we'd had Chukwueze on instead of Traore. I thought Traore was absolutely terrible when he came on. Again, why do you hang on to the ball for so long? Just get rid.
There was a guy behind me that was going, shoot, as he was going from left to right. And the further he got to the left-hand side of the pitch, then he was like, don't shoot, as he was going onto his left foot. And then, funny enough, we got back to where the ball started. It was just a complete waste of time.
Very frustrating player to watch. I mean, I've said it before and I say it again. At Villa away, he gave the ball away or should have paid it to Iwobi 3 times. One of them ended up being McGinn scoring the goal.
Yeah.
Now then, I arrived in the press room at about just after 2:30. As literally immediately I sat down, John Percy and just been sacked. I was thinking, uh-oh, this is a real problem for Fulham. And I think because the early noises were Sean Dyche and then Roberto Mancini, I actually genuinely think the reason why Marco Silva wasn't the big name at the time was because Fulham were literally about to play. And I think if Sky Sports had got Marco Silva in for a pre-match interview in their little hub, whatever, and said, and gone in and gone, you've been linked with the Forest job, I think he'd have been absolutely raging, because you're preparing for a game against Arsenal. You want to answer those questions. You don't want to be thrown a curveball after the game, perhaps because more time there's been more time to sort of the dust to settle, and then that name creeps up again. And he was asked about it by, I believe, Match of the Day or whatever, BBC, to which he shunned away, didn't even get asked about it in the press conference. So, and then for Sunday morning, Ebola. Oh dear, I was getting a little bit fearful. Contrasting reports saying that they want to pay it, they're going to pay it. Marco Silva's keen on negotiations, and then my conclusion to the whole saga is that I think Marco Silva's loyalty to Fulham is incredible, absolutely incredible. What are your thoughts on this?
My thoughts are that this with no insider knowledge. If Forest knew that Silva would join them, I don't think they would hesitate in paying that release clause for him. It's 10 million, there or thereabouts. In today's market, for players, that's nothing, right? I honestly don't think that he wanted to join them. I think that he wants to stay at Fulham. Obviously, there's a lot of things he wants to change, and I think me and you agree, and most fans do agree, that these things need to change. Do I also think there's some things that Silva could do better? Yes. That does not mean that I don't think that he is the best man for the job right now. And I think that first half an hour proved it on Saturday. I think that we did take the game to Arsenal. Yes, we sat in a sort of mid-block as we always do. I think that it would be suicide not to in footballing terms. We saw that in the 3-0 defeat we had a few seasons ago when we didn't really adapt the way we played against them. I think that Shahid is in town. We need to be pushing for a new deal for Silva. I think that he's the most important thing at the club right now. And I think that if you don't even believe that on the pitch, then you need to be able to understand that based on what the players say. The players all say Marco Silva was one of the big reasons for either me joining, me extending my contract, Fulham being where we are now, or Fulham improving. Ryan Sessegnon called it out the other day and just said the biggest reason that Fulham are where they are now versus when he left the club is Marco Silva.
Yeah, so look, Dyche comes in. He basically, from what I was reading, was offered a short-term deal, and he was like, "No, I don't want that."
Which is so fair, by the way.
Of course it is. I mean, if you think about it, right? In my head, and what's going on at Nottingham Forest, I'm thinking that Marinakis is very insistent on wanting Marco Silva, therefore wants a short-term interim manager to the end of the season, and then gets his man on a free at the end of the season. All could still happen, right? But I don't think that Sean Dyche would stand for that. They're in the Europa League. They're 2 games in. They've got 1 point. And, there is a scenario where Fulham are in a better position than Nottingham Forest at the end of this season. Marco Silva was very interesting on Friday. He's been asked about his contract situation, I would like to say maybe 4 or 5 times in 4 or 5 separate press conferences. And all the time, it's like I don't even need to type the quote. I know what's coming. It won't be a distraction, blah, blah, blah. We'll talk when we talk. And then finally, this time, he was like, I've been here 5 years, why not more? And I was like, oh, that's interesting. And the Khans are in town, like you say. I think basically what's going to happen now is that he'll be asked about the Forest situation on Thursday at 3:00. It'll be one of the first questions. And he'll probably say something like, rumours are rumours. That is football. It shows if you're doing something good, blah, blah, blah. And then it will be a case of, I think that basically Fulham and the Khans and Ali Mack are going to do their absolute utmost to sign him down to a new deal, whether it be 1 year, whether it be 2 years. I think it's realistic that he could sign a new contract, but at this stage, what's being reported saying he's frustrated with the board, etc., it doesn't seem likely. The only thing is, these long-term projects of his, King, Smith Rowe, Muniz, Kevin, I'd like for him to see that through and at least have another couple of years and see how that progresses.
Yeah.
Fulham are in 14th right now on 8 points. Doesn't mean we're not going to get Europe. We still very much could get Europe. It's still very early days. We're in a Carabao Cup 4th round with with a viewpoint of trying to get into the quarter-final. That's into the last 8, and you're 3 games away from Wembley. And that's a trophy opportunity. The FA Cup hasn't even started yet. there's lots of opportunity here for Fulham, and obviously Marco Silva is a very capable manager. The question is, there's actually a lot of talk on Twitter now about, and I disagree with it because I'm a Marco Silva's biggest fan, but a lot of people are saying, well, if Marco Silva leads at the end of the season, am I that fussed? And a lot of people are saying, well, no, not really. I don't think I would be too aggrieved, or maybe it is time for something new. Has he taken us as far as he can? The season's very young, 30 more games to go in the Premier League, 90 points to play for. We've had a very slow start, but I was expecting that slow start, as you said. I think you tweeted this the other day about the fixtures being how they basically panned out the way you've expected them to pan out. Was it you or someone else?
It wasn't me, but I'm going to take credit. No, I think it was Sammy, actually, maybe.
It might have been. It was someone Fulhamish.
When you think about it as well.
It was Dan Cook.
Oh, it was Dan Cook. Apologies. Yeah. And Sammy's going to take the credit as well, just like me, I guess. Ultimately, there have been no real shock results at all. Like he says, the draws that we got against Brighton and Man United, we didn't get them last season, but equally they weren't really shock results. We did win at Stamford Bridge this season. This year was almost like back to normality, albeit in horrible circumstances. We normally beat Brentford in recent times at home, and we'd expect to, and Leeds the same, whereas we have a terrible record at Villa Park and a terrible record at Bournemouth. We also normally, in talking the history of Fulham, struggle against Arsenal. We've not got a great record with them. We have in recent years, but also you'd probably expect to lose to the league leaders at home, unfortunately. So there haven't really been any glaring shocks. You'd probably put this weekend down, Newcastle, which we'll come on to talk to you now, as one where you would expect not to get much. We did win there last season, though. So lots of swings and roundabouts. If I told you in the next 2 games we'd get 3 points, that would match what we got in these fixtures last season. Obviously, we got them the way round that you wouldn't expect. We lost at home to Wolves, but we did win at Newcastle away. If you swap those, they're probably par for the course of what you'd expect right now in terms of maybe not getting much at St James's Park, typically over the years, but beating Wolves at home. I would say I think we've got an opportunity at St James's Park.
100%.
They're not playing well, as you said. They're better at home, as are we. But honestly, I think that we can sort of stifle them and hopefully get a good result. Obviously, Voltemade has had a great start to his Newcastle career as the Isak replacement, but they haven't been playing free-flowing football. I mean, they don't normally anyway, if we're being completely honest, not to badmouth them, but they don't play that way. They play a high-intensity style of football that more relies on pressing and duels than anything else, especially when we've played them. And last season, we got our way with them twice, which was a great result for us. We'd had quite a good record against Newcastle until the recent years, and it was good to sort of revert that last season. In terms of how we line up, Jack, what would you change from the Arsenal game? And I think for the sake of our conversation now, where we don't have any news, I think we have to assume that Anderson is out, even if a hamstring injury, even if it's not the most severe. I very much doubt he'll recover in time. And I think based on what Silva said, I think we'd expect that Kearney will probably be okay. So we've got no news on Chukwueze. Let's assume that he's not back. But Tete was on the bench, so let's assume that Tete is available. Lukic, probably too soon. Moon is probably too soon. So what are we thinking for the lineup?
I'm thinking Alex Iwobi, middle of the park, please. Put all the disappointment of not signing a centre mid aside and just play him in the middle because he's a great ball carrier, especially centrally, strong on the ball, plays great passes out wide. And I think if Fulham, who are going to get counter-attacking opportunities at St James's Park, they need strong runners on the ball. Not saying TC isn't, not saying Sanderberger isn't, but Iwobi in that position for me will ball carry and advance our attacking threat a lot. Yeah. So I would go Leno in goal. Tete, if he's back, play him because he's just the better right back again, not being disrespectful to Castagna, who was brilliant against Arsenal. But I remember Anthony Gordon absolutely tearing him to shreds in that first half. But then in the second half, and I asked Silva about this after the game against Newcastle last season, he was really good, really quite brilliant. So Castagna, again, really good safe pair of hands. Diop, Cuenca for me. I mean, Bassi could come back in. It wouldn't really surprise me if he did, but also Cuenca on that performance deserves to start 100%. And the really good thing about this is that when Bassi does inevitably go to AFCON, we've got a really good left-sided centre-back to take his place. And that fills me with, if he stays fit and is injury-free, Cuenca, that would be great. And I'm really excited because Cuenca had a really tough time of it last season where he was unhappy about minutes and he was feeling, feeling quite homesick. And I think now he feels a bit more settled. He's going to play more minutes guaranteed this season because of the Batty situation. And once, you've earned your spot, it's very hard to actually be replaced. I think Bassey's going to have to work really hard to get back in the team. And I think it's unfortunate for Bassey in terms of, because he went away with Nigeria and probably wasn't, and played so many minutes for them, 90 minutes for them. And then basically was like, I'm not ready to play on Saturday because I'm just slightly fatigued. That could cause, maybe it's a case of, well, if Bassey's recovered, then he comes back in. But Cuenca deserves to start for me. Anyway, Cuenca and Diop, just, you say if Anderson's not ready, which I don't think he will be. Robinson, I'm fearing the Robinson situation, but Sessignon, safe pair of hands at left back. Berger, Iwobi, King. I'm still yet to see a big Smith Rowe sort of performance since the Man United goal. Again, came on and wasn't great. And I'm really fearing this Smith Rowe situation.
There's a few groans around me when Smith Rowe came on, and I don't even think it was to do with him in isolation. I think it was more to do with him coming on against Arsenal.
Right.
And I struggled with his performance, both of them actually, against Arsenal last season, because I'm not really feeling the effort here. I'm not really seeing it. I think that was different. So I saw him chasing down, but I thought he was trying.
Yeah.
But I don't think that his cameo warranted a start. Absolutely agree.
Left-hand side, Kevin, for me. Raul up top, and on the right, Harry Wilson. And if Chukwueze is ready, put him on the bench and don't play Traore. Don't put him on. I really believe that now we've got a focal point. I think we're going to play better like we did on Saturday, and away from home with a focal point with chances to play on the break. Yes, please. That excites me immensely. I think we basically saw that in a tiny, tiny, small sample size at Aston Villa, where we got a corner and scored from it. Then Raul went off, and then we were feeding off scraps with Traore trying to hold up the ball, which at times did work first half, second half, we couldn't make the ball stick at all. Really looking forward to it now. Flying up on Friday night. It's going to be really good fun, and hopefully we get a back-to-back win at St James's Park. I just want to make one final point. Actually, do you disagree with my team? I know
No, hold the front page, hold the back page. I completely agree with your team.
We've discussed it, haven't we?
The only thing, the only thing that, and before you get onto your point, that I am potentially worried about facing Newcastle specifically, is how physical their midfield is.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we don't really have an option for that. I would definitely prefer Iwobi over TC there for that reason. I don't think either of them are particularly accustomed to dealing with the likes of Joe Linton and players like that. But I would rather Iwobi there than TC. So I completely agree with your team. I also think, Kevin, we've paid the money. He's clearly fit enough now. Start him from the beginning and let's see what happens.
Yeah. You're right. I mean, let's say Newcastle play in the Champions League in the week. Big physical game against Benfica, which I'm sure will take a lot out of them. That obviously is a benefit to us. Slightly maybe sleepy. They're going up. They're hosting Fulham and start slowly, and Fulham get on the front foot. You never know what will happen. The crowd at Newcastle is a big influence on the way that the game goes sometimes because of the expectation, the amount of people, the noise, etc. So last season was very, very interesting when it came to that sort of factor. I just want to ask you, Sean Dyche comes in, and he's probably, because Sean Dyche is probably he's a guy you would like to have a pint with. He knows, he knows what's what. He reads the stories. He's probably seen that Silva's a long-term target, right? So when he's offered a short-term deal, he's going, hang on a second. I'm not going to be the short-term solution until you get in your man. He's going to basically be like, look, we've got something to build here, and I'm going to sign a long-term deal because I'm a capable manager. I've been in the Europa League before with Burnley, albeit didn't do very well, but I've, I deserve to get a long-term contract. Do you think that? I mean, that's a huge benefit for Fulham, obviously, but with Marinakis and the way is 39 days for Ange Postecoglou, 5 Premier League games is just not enough time. I just don't think any manager should get sacked after 5 Premier League games, regardless of results, because it's just ridiculous. But does that stand us in good stead? And give me your prediction as to what you think is going to happen in the next 8 months.
My prediction has always been that if a job on the market comes up that is really too good to turn down, that Silva would go. And I don't think that's happened yet. I don't think Forest was the one. I have to be honest there. I was always nervous about West Ham. And I can't really explain why, because I don't think that West Ham is a more enticing club than us at the moment by any stretch of the imagination. But I'm glad that Nuno's gone there. And I think that Nuno will probably do quite well there. I think that he's a good manager. Man United was always one that also worried me, just because I think it is hard to turn them down. That being said, there isn't one upcoming that I can foresee that I think Silva would want to go to. And I think that my honest prediction is that Silva will sign a new deal at Fulham. I don't know if it will be long term, but I think that Silva will be here next season. And that's what I do believe. I think that's an unpopular opinion right now. And I may very well be wrong. I have no knowledge of this at all. But it's giving me the vibe of when Silva last signed a deal where things weren't going great. He was in the last year of his deal. We're all thinking he's going. What job's going to open up? Is it going to be Tottenham? Is it going to be Man United? Is it going to be West Ham? Is it going to be, I don't know, Everton again? Whoever. I don't think he'd go back there. But just for example, I think Silva will sign a new deal. Sean Dyche as well. I mean, let's face it, he's not stupid. He knows what Marinakis is like. He's probably just got the long term to protect himself and make it harder for Marinakis to sack him, or at least he gets a bigger payoff if he is. Yeah. So, look, that's my prediction. I don't know if that will happen. And also, I think I'm thinking slightly with my heart rather than my head. But I do think that Silva will sign a new deal at Fulham.
Well, he's got a good thing going. And the one issue is, and you really do strip it back, sometimes I had to remind myself this, Fulham only signed one permanent outfield player this summer in Kevin. Chukwueze is a loan with an option. JK is a loan and hasn't even featured. And Lecomte's a goalie. For a team who finished just outside the European places in terms of points and potential, it's almost taken me a month and a half to realise how shocking that is.
It's horrendous. It's horrendous.
Yeah.
And like I said, when we did the review with Sammy and Jack Collins, we said, like, the players that we brought in, I was happy with. But the problem was not the players that we brought in, it's the players that we didn't. And when we brought those players in,
the timing was awful.
Like, it's nearly November, and not one new signing has been able to start a league game because we brought them in so late, because they're not used to the system, they're not fit enough, various reasons. And I just don't think that's acceptable. When you go to Brighton opening day in mid-August, and they're able to start an array of new signings that are already bedded in, and look at they're reaping the rewards now. They're doing very well. Imagine if we'd have had Kevin at least on the bench at Brighton, and we're now 2 months down the line with his progression into the team, and we'd all see the benefits, including him.
And that is, for me, a reason why Marco Silva might not stick around for another summer. I can't believe he'd put himself through that again for another summer. And also, there are some rumours flying about that Fulham are going to sign a centre mid in January. We will see. That would, for me, complete the squad. Score prediction for Newcastle before we finish.
I think that we're going to get something. I don't think we're going to win there. I think we're going to get a 1-1 draw at Newcastle this weekend, and I would be happy with that result. I think that'd be a really good result. The
first time felt so nice. We had to do it twice. Newcastle 1, Fulham 2. Come on, Fulham.
Whoa!
We're going to do
by the
it.
way, that's a season changer immediately. Yeah. The momentum and everything. First away win, fantastic. Would be amazing.
Who's getting the winning goal, you ask?
I ask.
It's going to be Kevin. Yes.
And here's my prediction for that 1-1 draw. A certain someone is getting their first Fulham goal officially.
JK8?
Mate, he's not getting his first Fulham minutes, let's be honest with you.
Okay.
Josh King is scoring for Fulham.
Ooh.
Is my prediction. I can see it now. Similar goal to Chelsea that never was. Cuts inside, bottom left corner. Goalie strapped.
He is gaining more and more attention. Under 21s for England. Henry Winter was tweeting about him. Simon Collins from The Standard was tweeting about him as well. We can't hide our best talent. He's in the Premier League starting 11 for the first 8 games of the season. He's absolutely terrific. Thank you guys for sticking with us. And Joe Sanson, thanks so much for being here.
No, thank you very much, Jack. Anyone going to the sold-out Newcastle game, enjoy it, have a great time, bring back those points.
I actually don't know when we're back, but we will be back very, very soon.
We will be back.
Guys, take care of yourselves. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. And come on, Fulham.